All right, good morning and welcome everyone. It's Tony Zayas here. Thank you guys for joining to watch this masterclass here over the next 50 to 55 minutes. I'm going to try to pack this all in less than an hour. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my slides and then we will get moving. But feel free, if you'd like, to go ahead and in the comments section, you can ask questions there. We can interact there. So let me know if you do have any questions, if there's anything you want to ask or discuss. I got a lot to pack in over this next hour, so I will jump back and be looking at the chat area. That I will get those messages. If you're watching this streaming live on YouTube, I will see those messages come in. So let me know, say hello, and we'll go from there. With that, guys, I want to go ahead and jump right into this presentation. Let me go to my slides here, go to the agenda. So first of all, this is the LinkedIn Lead Generation Masterclass, and this is specific for you guys. I'm assuming you're a promo distributor. If you're here, awesome, that's great. And the reason that we're doing this is because I've now run programs, managed lead generation programs that start with LinkedIn for promo distributors for a full year now, for dozens of them. And we had a ton of success with that program. And I want to share with you guys kind of what was learned throughout that process. So just to look at the agenda, we're going to talk about today. It's a weird world and place that we're in. I think everyone could acknowledge that, and I know it's been hard for a lot of people. My goal with this presentation is to give you, there's a number of things, but one, if you don't have a process and plan to generate leads, to create new business, you will have one at the end of this presentation. At least you'll have a game plan for it, and it's up to you to implement it, but I want to give you that if nothing else. But we need to first address kind of where we're at with marketing and sales. And then there is something that I call the success formula. It's what works when using LinkedIn for creating a lead generation program, because there's things that worked literally months ago that don't work anymore today. I've been doing this for quite a while, and there's been more changes because of everything that's happened with COVID and all of that, where in-person events have been shut down, and so there's been a huge spike. If you notice that things like this, right? So we've had all these technologies and things available to us to be able to allow to interact remotely for a long time. However, everything that's happened with the pandemic this year has forced everybody into the pool, and so now that people are using this, there's a good chance in a lot of ways they won't go back, even when things clear up and we get back to normal, what things used to be. There's a good chance that a lot of this stuff is going to stick, and so you have to become proficient, ready for 2021, not even 2020. You need to be 2021 ready to move forward. So I'm going to show you guys the success formula and then the actual steps to implement a full-blown lead generation program, starting using LinkedIn is kind of the primary starting point, and exactly how to do that. Then I'm going to give you a number of quick hits. We're going to talk about what's working today, what's not working today, what's been working for a while that's still working great that barely anybody's taken advantage of. Those are some of my favorite things, and that's what we'll close out and talk about, those quick hits. So my promise for you is over this next hour, and I do have to pack this in an hour, both out of respect to your time, but I also have somewhere to be here at noon Eastern. So I'm going to give you an understanding of the functional steps, the marketing psychology, and a clear path to begin using LinkedIn in a very intentional way to consistently generate new and qualified leads that match your ideal target audience. So that is the promise to you. And then just for tuning in, I'm excited to share all this with you guys, but I also have a few things as my way of saying thanks for tuning in. And so we have a free gift for you. When you stick around, you'll see what that is. But I will tell you that you will be getting slides and resources, all the things that I point to in this presentation. You're going to get everything. So you'll get the links to the different tools and resources that I'm using, that I'm sharing. There's no cost to any of that stuff that I'm going to share with you. So there you have that. And I think that will give you the blueprint and game plan to implement a lot of these things. If you have the slides and you see the steps and you have the tools and resources, boom, it's go time. So with that, we will kind of wrap up with that. And I do have an offer. So we've been running this program, and I'm going to put it out there. It's kind of my Cyber Monday offer, because we're going to be shutting this down, and we will not continue to remain running this program, at least not with our doors open to new clients. And I'll tell you more about that right at the end. But more than anything, I want to dive into this content and why this is so important to you now, here, today. And so, as I mentioned and kind of alluded to, we are faced with literally unprecedented uncertainty, and at the same time, market sophistication. So like I said, while everybody is getting into learning how to navigate this world remotely, everyone's getting better at this stuff. So whereas this stuff used to be a lot easier, so online lead gen using LinkedIn, it still works incredibly well. However, there's more nuance to it. People are more sophisticated. And so that's what we're going to talk about. It's not just you need to be on LinkedIn and connect with people. That won't get you very far. You need to have a nuanced game plan that goes pretty deep. Doesn't have to be super complex, but you have to have some thought to it for it to be effective. So that uncertainty that we're dealing with due to this global pandemic is has a lot of people working from very challenging places, and we understand that. And so people have had to pivot and make big changes in their businesses. And in doing that, a big part of the world of marketing and sales is we've had to learn how to engage in this manner digitally. The other thing is that there's a ton of overwhelm and overstimulation, just generally speaking, right? News overload, social media overload, everything is just, we're bombarded with it. So I know some of you, hopefully, over the holidays, turned that stuff off. I know I certainly did. I went on a social media just hiatus for a couple of weeks, and it felt good just to not hear all that news and everything that consumes us. But we have to realize, even if you do that for yourself, your prospects, your network, everybody that you know, most people are impacted by this. And so we're facing tough times, and people know more, and part of that is overwhelming. The other side of that is, so that's just kind of in general, but then when we look at the business side of things, there's a lot of competition out there, and all of it is moving into a similar space. They're using pay-per-click advertising. They're focusing on their search engine optimization. They're doing email marketing. They're doing social media outreach, all this kind of stuff. Everyone's playing in that pond now because they have to. And so in order to be effective there, you have to be good. You have to be better than the masses. So it's become more difficult. But if you've been paying attention to this space, you realize there's certain things that you already know, or if you've been active here, you already have that advantage of being a little bit better. And if you haven't, if this is new to you, it's a place you never really dove in and took advantage of, then I'm glad you're here, because we're going to talk about some of that stuff that will give you an immediate advantage over your competition, because the game certainly has changed. All right, so house rules, just, there's no such thing as an easy button. I am a big fan of automation. There's automation tools. There's a LinkedIn automation tool that I love, but that's not the end game. That doesn't solve everything. There's a lot that goes into configuring that and having the right target audience and the right messaging and the right intervals and being able to shift conversation from LinkedIn elsewhere. We're going to go into all of that, but there are things that will help you be more efficient, be more effective, but there's not like any single easy button that makes this stuff just happen. Just doesn't work that way. So I don't want you to think that that's what I'm alluding to. This is going to take some thought and some work to set up a program like this. I'm telling you, though, it'll be well worth it, and it's going to help you at least survive and hopefully thrive, and hopefully our economy and things are looking up as we move into the new year, and just look back at this difficult, challenging year as a time where we had to figure out how we're going to move forward, and that's part of what you're doing here. So I encourage you just to turn off distractions and take some notes here today. Again, the replay will be available for you. The resources will be made available if you stick around until the end. And so with that, let's just jump in. Many of you guys already know who I am, so I'm not going to go through a whole lot here, but I currently am the VP of Growth at Insivia. We're a consultancy and agency that services mostly companies in the technology, software, and device spaces. That's kind of who we focus our services on. But I did come from the promo world. I was at Proforma for 8 years as the director of sales and marketing and other roles there. And so I had the opportunity to really learn a lot about the space and the challenges that distributors face. And I'm in touch with so many of you. I know many of you that are on here today are my Proforma friends. So appreciate you tuning in. With that, let's talk about the state of marketing and sales and how this impacts lead generation. And I talked about it a little bit, but I want to go into my backstory. And so when I was at Proforma, I like to call it the Tale of 7 Cities. So we used to do these meetings in the beginning of the year, and it was our regional meetings. And so I was tapped to present, I think in 2012, a general session presentation. Again, we did like 7 cities in a row to catch all of our Proforma franchise owners throughout the US and Canada. 7 different locations throughout North America in like 6 weeks or something crazy like that, right? And so it was a fun little circuit to do with the team, and got to see all of our franchise owner friends and all of that. But the session that I was assigned to present was the focus on how to use social media and social media marketing and social media engagement and all of that. And this was in 2012. So again, it was very, everyone was using social media essentially, but a lot of people hadn't figured it out for business purposes. And still to this day, a lot of people haven't gotten the results that they want from a business standpoint. But back then, everyone was figuring out, should I do this stuff and how and all of that. And so as I went and presented this session, 7 cities in a row, I stood in front of a room that looked something like what you see there. And some of you that are tuning in today might have actually been at one of those presentations. And what I did was I went through and I asked everybody to stand up if you use social media in any way, shape, or form. So you have a LinkedIn account or you have a personal Facebook or whatever. I said, go ahead and stand up. And so there are about 100 people in the various rooms. And so as everyone would stand up, I said, okay, everyone look around. Like pretty much the whole room is standing, right? So there's 95 or so out of the 100-ish people in each room, 7 cities in a row. And everyone would look around and okay, pretty interesting, right? That most people are on social. And I said, okay, now go ahead and stay standing if you are using social media for business purposes. And about 5 more people sat down, but we had about 90, so about 90% of each of the rooms were still standing. And I said, okay, now look around. And everyone looked, and it was like, there was kind of chatter and like, wow, okay, so wow, maybe we're onto something. Everybody's trying this out. And then I asked the question, I said, okay, now stay standing if you have a social media strategy. And guess what? 7 cities in a row, one by one, when I asked that question, the same thing happened. And you might guess, right? And especially back in 2012, when this was newer for businesses to really dive in, engage, and use it, what we saw was the majority of the room, maybe a couple, few handful of people, single digits for sure, stayed standing, and the rest of the room completely sat down. They said, now take a look around. This is the challenge where we're at, and this is basically become a big part of my business life and mission, was to help solve that strategic process of how do we use, and I was charged by the team, the executive team there, to how do we take this social media activity and turn it into sales and growth and all that. So not just likes, but actual growth. And so I dove in and I built some training and different number of different things, education, software tools. We created a content program and all of that. And that was all for the benefit of the people that wanted to figure out how to use this stuff. And then we ended up getting great results. And to this day, I believe things along those lines are still being run there. So some of the takeaways, the universal challenges that we talked about then have never changed. And I don't think they ever will. And so the big ones are time. You don't have the time in the day to spend a lot figuring out how to do this stuff, or actually going in and engaging with people or creating content or whatever. It relates to the next one. Content is always a challenge because, again, that takes time. So those are kind of tied together. But in the same breath, content also takes thought and articulation. And, well, what type of content should I be sharing? And what should my profile look like? And how, right, figuring that out. And then the third point, I think, is the toughest one. Even if you dedicate time to it, even if you're creating content, strategy. Do you have a strategy that determines the type of content that you create, that dictates and tells you how much time you should be spending? How is that allowing you to stay efficient and consistent enough with all of this? How do you determine what are the right outcomes and how to tweak things if you're not getting the outcomes that you want? And so time, content, and strategy became the universal challenges pretty much seen by everybody. And I don't just mean in the promo world. I mean anybody that's using social to this day. Those are significant challenges. And there are ways around them, but you have to have a plan for it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, my focus is more on not just like brand awareness and getting likes and engagement. I want you to book appointments. I want you to have projects to quote on. That's what I'm talking about, is the outcomes of anything that you're doing on social, and specifically LinkedIn. That is the ultimate goal, is to turn that time spent, that activity, that engagement into sales, into customers, into upsells, whatever that is. That's the goal of it. Some of the other challenges, there's a lot that are thrown at people. There's a lot to learn if you haven't run a program like this, or haven't been real active, or haven't really leveraged social much. So the paralysis by analysis, just so much to learn. And so, I'm just seeing a comment here. I do have a slide up, so let me try that one more time. So just want to make sure you guys are seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Okay. All right. So hopefully I'm seeing it on my end here. Hopefully you guys are seeing this well. So paralysis by analysis is a big one. The lack of confidence. So it can be just challenging. Having the confidence to start to put yourself out there, or put content out there, and start to engage, to interact with a whole bunch of people. Sometimes that's a little bit uncomfortable and people don't have the confidence to do it. And then the other thing is routine. So this only works if you're using this with great consistency. This isn't something you do one time. You run a LinkedIn search and then do a round of outreach and then, oh wow, success. No, it's something that, it's like exercise, right? It's like dieting. It's like anything that yields any legitimate results is something that you have to do with consistency. And so working it into a routine So you're not as challenged by that time challenge. Once it's part of your routine, then it's not a big deal because you're accounting for it and it's part of your routine. So you get it done. So that's what can be difficult. Okay, cool. Glad to see that one up. And I thank you guys. Thank you, Steve, for pointing that out, and Michael for letting me know that it's back up. I'm jumping back and forth through the couple of screens, so hang in there if I don't get to your questions right away. But anyway, so those are the big challenges that go into all of that. And then ultimately, this is why that all ends up, as a thought that, yeah, I was gonna try that social media stuff out. The COVEY'S time management matrix, right? So the tyranny of the urgent. Things that are urgent and important, they get handled. Things that are urgent and not important, those things typically get handled. The things that are not important and not urgent, we're really not, it's okay if they don't get handled, but the ones that we have to worry about are the things that fall into this category of important, but not urgent. If there's no urgency to it, it's never going to happen. That's just because there's too much that we have to deal with. And typically implementing a program like this falls into that category, that not urgent, but important. And that's devastating. And so by going through this today, I just want to show you that this doesn't have to take a lot of time. That if you follow steps, you can have a nice plan there that you're not going to have to reinvent the wheel. You can follow this process that we've used to have great success in a reasonable amount of time every day and get really solid results with that. And so you can work it into your schedule and not feel the overwhelm and to be able to push it aside, knowing that it's important, but saying, hey, it's not urgent, so I'm not going to do it. When you have that momentum, you know how to do something, and you know how valuable it is, those are typically the ones that fall into this category that actually get done. But when there's any resistance there, like having to create the whole strategy, not knowing what to do, that paralysis, that's when it gets tabled. And so that's what I want you guys to be able to beat today. All right, so that was then. New challenges exist today. I talked about some of these already. It's the reality of where we're at in 2020, the information age. First of all, so this is not even like COVID related. I've been saying this since 2012. I've been saying this over and over. So if you've heard me say this, then my apologies, but the information age is over. It's been over for a long time. What I mean by that is that it used to be that when the information age first came up, that was, wow, you now had access to this wealth of information that can make you so powerful and so effective and so efficient. But then we got to a point where we were bombarded with so much information, and having the right information was no longer the challenge because everyone had that information, and it changed the whole dynamic. And so what happened was information actually became our enemy too much, right? Think about it. We hear all about fake news and there's propaganda, and whatever side you lean on, you can hear a lot of, this is all I'm going to talk about politics, right? Whatever side you tend to lean, you hear a lot of stuff that sounds bogus from the other side, right? That is information age being over. We have no shortage of information, and more information is definitely not a solution to our challenge. And so that's important to know, is we're the post-information age. Mobile means constant competition. So if you're creating a lead generation program, know that this is something that other people can be engaging with, sharing content, interacting, getting a foot up on you 24/7, right? And because people are always on this, you're always going to have an audience that is there, that's responsive, that you can engage, but there's also going to be competition that is going to be engaging them. And so mobile means this is never turned off. Trust is scarce. Just like we look at what used to be trustworthy sources. Everyone's more skeptical today because so much information, right? There's a lot of noise, and especially in the business world, people see a ton of offers, a ton of hype, promises, things that just looks, too good to be true, to the point that it's not even like, wow, did you see this? It's like people just tune it out. We see things like that with such great regularity that we have blinders to it. So it's interesting. And then the great information imbalance is over. I did want to say, I'm wondering, I think I meant to have on this slide is the other thing here is that the reality of today is that with COVID, we've seen such a challenge that just events and in-person meetings, trade shows, conferences, a lot of ways that we used to get in front of people, right? And in the promo industry, it's a face-to-face business. And you've had to figure that out, over the last 8-9 months. And so I know that that's not news to you, but think about that. That's the reality of the world. We're all having to figure out how do we engage better, more effectively, remotely. And so that's where we're at. Big part of this is this great information imbalance. So it used to be that when you were in a sales role, you had some information. You had that leverage, as you can see on this slide here. You had leverage because you had information about your product or service that the buyer didn't have. And so they engaged with people in sales roles because that's who you talk to learn about product features and how something works and to learn. Nowadays, we know that isn't the case. And so this has been balanced out. It's no longer asymmetric. It used to be asymmetric. So you held kind of that balance of power because they needed something from you. Nowadays, buyers initiate their searches online. They do a bunch of research. They come to you telling you what they think they need. And this is where your professionalism and this is where your value comes in, is you might be able to suggest otherwise or do other things. But to an extent, things have changed quite a bit. And here it is. I guess this is the slide I was looking for. So COVID has wiped out those in-person meetings and events. Referrals, as they always have been, are unpredictable and unreliable. Great way to get business, I know. But at our agency, we hear from so many, and this is all types of businesses. This isn't just promo. So many people are looking to implement a lead generation program simply because they relied, and these are software and technology companies that you would think would be doing these, innovative things with online technology to generate new business, and they're not. And they're saying, no, it was all word of mouth. It was referral based, and that's kind of how we've grown to this point. And now we realize that we can't keep doing that because that's not, things have changed, and so we understand. And so that is something that is just across the board. Then if you're looking at advertising, cost to do online advertising, because everyone's moving there, remember, everybody's getting there. And so because of all that competition, it becomes more costly to use online advertising. So if you've ever done pay-per-click campaigns or some social media advertising, you know that the costs just keep going up. Like LinkedIn advertising is crazy expensive and not all that effective. I know a lot of people that have spent dollars, really good dollars, on LinkedIn ads and have gotten so little out of it. Google ads typically get better results. Their cost has gone up crazy over the last, definitely over the last 10 years, but just continue to rise. Facebook ads have gone up quite a bit. And then the big thing here is market sophistication. So what I mean by that is that, not only is all your competition moving into we're limited. So we can only do so much. So if we have to be remote, we're going to use remote means to engage with people. And that being the case, people are using LinkedIn, they're using ads, they're engaging in content creation and SEO and all that kind of stuff. And with that, your prospects are seeing more and more of this. And so it's getting harder to get someone who's sophisticated at understanding an offer that to engage in the process. When someone doesn't know what an ad is, they're like, oh, what's this? Oh, they're going to give me a free consultation or a download or whatever. It's easier. Your offer doesn't have to be as good. Does it still work? Absolutely, and we'll talk about that. But it has to come from a different place. Think about years ago, we used to be able to, on your website, just put, join our mailing list. And that was reason enough for people to say, oh, okay, cool, I like this company, I'm going to sign up. Now, people still do that if they do, in fact, really like your business, and that's great. But if someone finds you through search and they go to your site, they're not going to want more email in their inbox because it goes back to that information age. They're bombarded already. Unless they like and want to hear from you, they're not going to ask for more information from you. So to get an email address, it takes a better offer, a better reason why that's focused on their needs. And when you do that, you can be very effective, but the market's more sophisticated. So join our mailing list. That doesn't work well anymore. All right, good news. We're talking LinkedIn. I just realized I've been using and teaching LinkedIn process and strategy for, again, 10 years now. A little over 10, it's a little over 10 years, right? So that's quite a long time. And I guess I didn't realize how much LinkedIn itself, just as a network, has matured. If you go to LinkedIn now, you'll realize I used to complain about it all the time. I had this love-hate thing with LinkedIn, even though people thought of me as like the LinkedIn guy, because it was so sterile and there was so little actual like interaction there and engagement. And you go nowadays to the LinkedIn newsfeed and you just look, there's a lot of interaction. People are engaging, they're commenting, they're talking, they're discussing things. It's really good, and for the most part, solid discussion. It's a high quality engagement network. Now, there's a lot of people, most professionals of any sort have a LinkedIn profile. The thing with LinkedIn is people don't spend as much time there as they do on Facebook or Instagram or different networks. And that's because it's not meant to be your whole life. It's your business. It's your career. It's work. And so it's understandable. But at the same time, the quality of the engagement there has gone up. Not just quality, but the amount of engagement and activity has gone up significantly. And I guess I haven't given LinkedIn enough credit because over the last year or so, and definitely this year, and I think a big part of it is that LinkedIn announced an increase in conversational activity of 55% since January 1, beginning of this year. A lot of reasons for that. No trade shows, no conferences, no events. We can't get out and visit one-to-one a lot of our clients and prospects. So what do we have to rely on? We have to rely on email, text, phone calls, video conference, webinars, but LinkedIn, where everybody goes for social networking for business purposes. So those conferences and networking and trade shows, a lot of that, LinkedIn has now taken place for that. And the better quality time spent there is really good for us. So good news that people are engaging more, spending more time there, and there's more value overall on LinkedIn. Now the downside is that there's still a lot of bad practices there. And we'll talk more about best practices, but just like 101, sales is about people getting to know, like, and trust you. And so relationship dynamic is important. The way your conversation starts out is going to be important. If someone knows that you're reaching out with just a pitch, just an offer, you start from the lowest possible level of entry in that relationship dynamic, right? So if you get a cold call and you're in the middle of dinner and you answer the phone, you're not going to say, oh, wait a second, honey and family, I'm going to have to take this. And you don't go off into your office and say, oh, so you have an offer for me. That's great. Let me hear all about it. You're annoyed, right? You're like, oh my gosh, take me off your list. Don't call here at this time. I'm in the middle of Different people are going to handle it differently. I'm not as pleasant as some of you guys might be, and some of you I'm sure even worse. But think of it that way. And so when people are interrupted, no matter where they're at, there's always going to be a risk of that entering at a low level. So there's things that we can do to mitigate that we'll talk about. And this is where we move into this lead generation psychology. That's super important, because here's the thing. Just because you have a program set up, that doesn't mean it's going to work. Just because you're at the right network using LinkedIn, let's say, that means very little. What is important is you use the right network where people are at and they're for the right reason. And then you're following, here's the good thing too, 2020 psychology or 2021 psychology is human psychology. And even though we're faced with uncertain times and different approach to certain things, human beings are still human beings, and that's why this all works. And so the brain, we're not going to go into any deep science. I'm just going to tell you what I find fascinating about learning about this kind of stuff. It's the psychology behind when you first engage with someone. And so the way our brain developed through evolution was that the oldest part of our brain is that reptilian brain or crocodile brain, right? And so that is the part of our brain that is fight or flight. It's the first part that processes information to make sure, is this safe? Is it going to kill me? Is it going to eat me? Is it going to attack me? Or is that dinner, right? And so we have to figure out how to respond to something. And that's the first part of the brain. You can't put a complex offer in front of someone explaining why you can offer a better, employee engagement, employee rewards program when they're just wondering, are you a threat to them? So we first have to get past that, are you a threat? And then you can continue the conversation. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make. So if you're on LinkedIn and you get messages and connection requests and things like that of people like jumping to an offer, boom, your croc brain is like, who is this guy? Is this a scam, right? So we have that fear, and that's a evolutionary thing that's built into our DNA. It's not going anywhere. Once we get past that crocodile brain, we move into the midbrain. Now, I'll jump to the neocortex. That neocortex, that's where we process complex information. That's the thinking, the deep thinking part of the brain. And so that's the part of the brain that makes the decision to work with you. So that's the part of the brain we need to access. So I'm saying all of this because we have to get past those two initial gatekeepers. The crocodile brain, fear, the midbrain. So the midbrain, and will make sense, right? If you don't already know this concept, is that this is the part of the brain that is responsible for social interactions. So once we feel that someone is safe, okay, you're not a threat. Okay, now do I like you? So that's why we talk to people and learn a little bit about them, and we ask them about themselves. And if we have a commonality, because we need to socially kind of like someone to advance and then allow them access to that part of our brain where we can talk business, see how we can help them. So even if we could help them, if they don't first understand that we're not a threat, and then they do understand that we're likable, we can't even make that case. So that's important. The biggest mistake that I see, especially with LinkedIn programs that are put out there, is that they're making an offer to that first part of the brain. And they're trying to get to the second part because they're typically some like friendliness in their pitch and tone, but they're still talking to the crocodile brain. That just doesn't work. So we have to think about it a little bit differently, and I'll explain to you kind of how that happens. And then again, this is more actionable. That's a lot of theory, but now we're going to get in more into the steps to building a program that works. All right, let's keep going. So the basic steps are this: find the right people on LinkedIn. We'll talk about searches in a second and touch on that a little bit. Then understand their needs. It's really just knowing your audience, understanding anything that might be unique, doing your prep work. Now, I know a ton of you are already doing this, and you're really good at this. So this is great. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with you there on that. Then you want to engage with them. And I don't mean just sharing something on LinkedIn for your whole network to see, like posting an article or writing something. I'm saying one-to-one, a person-to-person engagement, so a message. And what you want to do in this message is provide value and demonstrate goodwill. So what that means is not a sales pitch. Definitely not. The opposite of it. We want to give something and showcase that we are offering value to them, something interesting, something valuable, and along the way, get them to, again, know, like, and trust us a little bit. And then after we do that, then we want to shift the conversation elsewhere, both as far as where they're at and what we're talking about. So where they're at, if they're on LinkedIn, sometimes people are more responsive, and you might say, well, can I send you some more information to your email address? And if so, please let me know where to send it. Or how about we jump on a call to discuss this process, whatever it might be. Shifting a conversation to email, text, phone, whatever that might be. And then ultimately making offers that, get this, will actually help them. So we can only diagnose their problem. We can only prescribe a solution to their problem if we can diagnose and understand what their challenges are. So that's why finding the right people and understanding their needs is really important. Then we provide things that are useful and helpful to them because we know that audience pretty well already. So we're going to give them some things that'll be of use, of interest. And then we move the conversation to somewhere else: text, phone, email, video conference, that's a big one, webinar maybe, and then make offers that will actually help them. And then the big one, that is the obvious one, that we still have to be better than ever, is follow-up, just being consistent and following up and staying in touch. So I like to call it the LinkedIn Try This instead. If you guys ever see that, they'll say, like, it'll have two different things, like fast food. We'll say, you know, the Arby's beef and cheddar classic, and it's this many calories. And then you'll see on the menu, there's another something comparable that still might taste great, but it's just super, like, so much healthier for you than that option. So it's not like you have to rule everything out at any fast food, but instead look on the menu and understand, well, you can make a healthier choice here than doing that. And I say that because LinkedIn is very easy to, you have a great audience in front of you. It's the people you need to be talking to. Man, I'm just going to blast them. Maybe if I do it enough, it'll work. Well, it doesn't work. But the nice thing is just a simple alternative, just making a little bit of a shift in what you're doing, like eat this, not that, works. And so it's not a big shift from the people who are doing things with a lot of activity and getting no results to show. It's not a huge change from that. It's just changing things a little bit. So targeting, that's the first thing. You have to find your audience. The nice thing about the promo world is that you guys have a massive audience. Like, pretty much every business buys promotional products. At some point in time, they can be a customer. Now, there's certainly different verticals and different roles and positions and different types of companies and size of companies that are more of your ideal, depending on who you like to sell to. And that's what you're searching for. So there's basic search filters. There's advanced Boolean search. If you stick around to the end, there's actually a guide that we're going to give you to help you learn more about Boolean search and how to do that. And that's using, like, operators. So it's like, you know, marketing, not sales. So you're finding marketing people, not sales marketing people, who typically tend to be more on the sales side, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then more advanced is even Sales Navigator. Now, Sales Navigator, I'm a huge fan of it. I use it for Insivia, for our business, to grow our business. Between that and search engine optimization, those are essentially the two ways we bring in all of our business, and it's awesome. So Navigator is great. I will tell you there is a cost to Sales Navigator. So what I pay is about 80 something, maybe $90 a month, and I pay like a monthly subscription. You can do it for a year and it's less. You can buy team licenses if you have a team of people. You get a very minor discount, I think, for that. But but there is a cost to it. Now, the great thing about LinkedIn Sales Navigator is they typically offer a free month trial. You can go in, get a ton of value out of it, get a whole bunch of connections, do follow-up and things, and you can determine if that's something you want to continue to pay for or not. So you can at least try it out. Basic LinkedIn search, I'm not going to go into this a whole lot, just out of with time in mind, but know that you can search for, like in this screen, I typed in project manager in that search, and then I can drill down and say, I want to find people who are not in my network. And so I would check on that second level connection. I would go through these drop-down boxes. So I'd first type in the phrase, maybe that's the title, maybe it's marketing director or marketing manager or HR director. And then I would put the drop-down, I'd put people. I don't want to find jobs that are for HR directors. I want to find people that have this in their title. And then I'm going to say, okay, I want to talk to people who maybe I'm not connected to, but we have mutual contacts, because that brings us close enough together. And then I want to find those people in my metro area, and there's a few other filters. Those are the big ones. You hit apply, and you see your results there. Now, those are the people that you could start clicking on the connect button to engage with, but there's a whole process there that I'll go into more detail. The next type of search, and again, if you stay here another 15 minutes, we will make sure that you get this resource. It's going to be a resource that'll show you how to use Boolean Search. So in this last screen, I had project manager as my search parameters. That's going to give me an instance of those two words showing up in someone's profile. But if I do this project manager in quotes, it's only searching for that specific phrase when those words are right next to each other. And then if I use these operators like or, PM, it's going to return people who have listed in their profile the actual phrase project manager, or they might be saying PM, like human resources might be written out as HR, abbreviated, or written out human resources. And maybe there's another term to throw in, and then budgeting. So what that allows you to target is these project managers, PMs, and budgeting, where all of those are hit, okay? Project, not manager. Let's say you're looking for people who work on these projects, but they're not the project managers. So we're looking for maybe project specialists or whatever it might be. So that's going to focus us here. And then we can always do an or, but using that and how to use that, like you need to use the capitalization of the operator. So or needs to be capital O, capital R, not capital N, capital O, capital T. So that's how that stuff works, using the quotes, the parentheses, all that stuff. We have a resource for that. If you haven't used Boolean Search, it's pretty simple, but it allows you to be more targeted, more effective. And then the last type is using Sales Navigator. You can really very easily have access to many more filters for keywords. You can find geography. Of course, the geography is much more precise. You can target by postal codes as opposed to just like metro areas or states, which is what the basic LinkedIn allows for. You can target industry. Let's see. Big ones here, seniority level. Years at company, years of experience, years in current position, actual titles. And then I think a big one of my favorite ones for Sales Navigator is just size of company based on headcount. Big difference if you're dealing with a company of 5 employees or 500 or 5,000, right? Maybe 500 is your sweet spot. So it'd be nice to be able to filter out those really small companies and also those big behemoths and really just target the ones that are best in your target range. And so you can do that here. Another one that I love is LinkedIn groups. You can search for people that are in specific groups, and a lot of times it tells you what their role is. I was working with a client that they're targeting government contractors, and they had no idea how they could actually find government contractors. And what we ended up doing was running a LinkedIn outreach campaign, and we used LinkedIn Sales Navigator to use LinkedIn groups, and all those people have self-identified saying, yeah, I'm a government contractor because I'm in these different groups. And so we had some great success in targeting those people. So you can do very similar things with Navigator. So this is where groups shows up. All right, some tips. Let's get to this. Your LinkedIn profile. I'm not going to belabor this because it's actually pretty straightforward. You can go and take a look at my profile. I'm not saying that I have the ideal profile. I just have put some thought. It's worked well for me, and you guys can borrow some of the ways I go about it. So first of all, my title here at Insivia is VP of Growth at Insivia. I put that right there so people can see that. But that's not all I put. I also put our tagline, and I put emojis in there. Why? Because that helps stand out. Looks different, grabs someone's attention, and then they read it. I also talk about how I host this SaaS Founder Show. So SaaS, sales at software as a service is what SaaS stands for. That is the target audience that we heavily focus on in my business. And so we have a show where we interview SaaS founders. That's one of the ways I get to talk to more SaaS founders. And that is another little clue of how I use this process. I'm not actually always selling to people. I'm sometimes showing them my show and telling them they might benefit from watching the show, or I might invite them to be on the show. By doing that, I'm once a week, my CEO and I, we set up this camera that's in the same software I'm using here. It's called Restream. And we just talk to them and ask them questions. And then that creates marketing content for us in a number of different formats, articles, the video content. We turn it into a podcast. So we do all these things. I'm getting ahead of myself, but in my title, I mentioned that I'm the co-host of this show. Cool, that's something that grabs someone's attention if they're a SaaS founder. And then, oops, jumped ahead. And then what do I do? Driving growth for software technology and device companies, right? So that basically tells you a little bit about me, a little bit about what I do and who I help. It's not just a title. If I ended it at VP of Growth at Insivia, people might say, well, what the heck is Insivia? What's a VP of Growth, right? Here's a little framework that I like to use. I help blank. So who do I help? Software tech and device companies. Help them understand, overcome, increase their conversion rates and reduce their retention by implementing best practices, lead generation programs, whatever it is, whatever that thing that you offer, you plug that in. So I help blank, that's your audience, understand, overcome, or increase whatever it is you help them do, boost brand awareness, engage employees, whatever that might be, right, that you want to focus on by implementing, delivering, developing promotional campaigns, company stores, whatever that might be, whatever it ties into. So you can pick yours, and that's a nice, simple way to show that. The About section, again, I just talk about who I help. And that's where I use that statement, is right in there. And then another thing I wanted to point out is I use these emojis, and you know why? Guess what? If I didn't have them there, this is all just black and white. It's just all looks like everybody else's. But here, this just draws your eye in. You're like, well, you even if you don't realize it, you're noticing that. And yeah, emojis might seem silly to you. And my daughter loves emojis and sends me messages just with a page full of them that make me laugh. But these grab people's attention, and we're so used to seeing these in text that they've been normalized. So it's not like weird to use an emoji. It actually grabs attention and allows you to play with a black and white, canvas. There's not a whole lot there, and put a little elements that call attention to certain things. And then in my featured section, I add some video content. I add links to articles that we've done that I think are really good value, because when someone looks at my profile, I want them to get an idea of who I am and what I do. I want them to understand that I help people like them if my target audience shows up there. I want them to be then curious about my show. And if they do watch it, they're going to feel kind of like they know me a little bit, just because the video is a great format. And then they're going to get value, hopefully, out of other things I put there. So those are the featured items. And then my experience section. Notice, again, I'm breaking this up and how I'm talking about what I do, talking about our company, our core values at our company. So that makes us different. And again, using these little emojis just to grab attention. But I put some definite thought into what I wrote there. All right. Then connect to grow your network. So create personalized engagement with ideal prospects. So once you do those searches and your profile represents you well, start to engage with people. But don't ever send a connect without writing a message. You want to definitely personalize it and mention a commonality. You're in the same city, you're in a similar industry, you went to the same school, something, but you want to mention some type of commonality. And then we talk about one-to-one messaging versus pure content sharing. And what I mean by this is, while this guy on the right who's presenting to a big audience, that is great for perception, for people seeing you as someone who's somewhat a thought leader, really knows their stuff, really understands your industry, can be helpful and knowledgeable. That's great. You should be doing both of these. But man, this one-to-one, this me whispering in your ear, sharing something with you that I didn't share with anybody else, that is what's really powerful. And how do you do that on LinkedIn? Well, let me show you. So when you share a post, I said, when I share something here, it shows up in the news feed of my connections. This is great for staying top of mind, boosting credibility, etc. That's what that's great for. Sharing articles, writing something thoughtful, great. Good to do, and you should be doing that with consistency. However, where you're really going to move the needle is when you engage in a message. So on LinkedIn, this one-to-one messaging, where you write to people and talk to them and just start a conversation and a dialogue. You to them, personal one-to-one. This isn't marketing noise now, it's a one-to-one exchange. In addition to that, you want to deliver compelling and relevant marketing content. So I said we do a show that allows us to create articles. These are all articles and podcasts and all kinds of stuff like that. The SaaS Founder Show. So if you're a founder of a software company and you see this page dedicated to this, people that have had successful exits from their companies and gone on, grown these great businesses, well, you're probably going to want to hear from them. So we did this purposely, and we've had some great results with that. We're having people reach out from pretty big, well-known software companies now saying, hey, we would love to have our founder on your show. So that's cool. And now we can in turn send that over to people that we're prospecting with. So we have this show page again, and then they see us, they see myself, Andy, my CEO on it. They feel like they know us a little bit, and we definitely start to feel like, wow, these guys really understand our space, right? We have podcasts, we have articles, etc. But the big thing, so offering that's where the goodwill and value is, sharing that type of stuff with your audience. If you're not creating that kind of stuff right now, that's fine. You could share third-party content, something that is relevant for an article on Forbes or wherever you like, from Promo Marketing or Counselor or any industry publications. If there's something good for an end user, send them that stuff. But creating your own stuff is really powerful. There's simple ways to do that. And then really it's making these Godfather offers. And the idea of that is thinking and knowing what they find valuable, what their needs are, what their challenges are, offering things that will help solve their problems. So giving away a case study or some type of white paper or an ebook that walks them through best practices. We have this, you're going to get here, it's called the Revenue Roadmap. Kind of walks you through this process of reaching prospects, converting leads, and then moving into closing sales. So you'll get that in a second. Some of the examples that we use, we have this Killer SaaS guidebook. And so this is how to create a great website that converts. This is how we turn contacts into leads, and we start conversations to follow with them. We do a bunch of case studies on clients so they can learn what we've done for other businesses similar to theirs. And then we do webinars similar to what I'm doing here. We're really targeted for the specific audience, and they can go and register, and we present some good content that'll be helpful to them. And then you repeat. You want to continue to send people to your site or your social, and then send them on to other things that add value. And I would say follow up, via email and other ways. Give me 1 second here, because I am gonna All right, so let's now talk the success formula. So I like to say that our success formula is 12 noon. So if you guys want to stick around, I have probably about 5 more minutes here to wrap up. I just told the team I'm meeting with that I'm going to be a few minutes late. So I don't want to cut you short here. This is some of the real good stuff that we're at. So P plus C plus HCO equals $sign. So what does that mean? It means positioning. So the way you make your profile and the content that you share, plus consistency, so continually putting out good content and showing your knowledge and showing your value and reaching out to people and offering goodwill and things that will be useful to them, plus high converting offers, so sending them something that generates a lead for you, like a download for a white paper or a case study, something like that. That all of it done with consistency equals that success. Okay, so just a couple of quick hits here. If you have any questions, go ahead and tell me in the comment section. But quick hits, so what's working today, and then we'll get to the free gift stuff. Okay, power of the like button. So if you don't know where to start, get onto LinkedIn, go through, first I'll start to connect with people and send personalized connection requests. Target your prospects that you want to engage with. So now you have a place to engage with them. And then go through your newsfeed every day, spend 5 minutes. And as you see content that your prospects post, hit the like button. People don't interact as much on LinkedIn as opposed to other social networks, so they most likely will remember that you did that. Now, if you took the time to do that, take it one step further and actually leave a comment. Tell them that you enjoyed the article. Wow, great perspective. Whatever your thoughts are, make it positive. This is helping you with the know, like, and trust. It's helping basically fast track that process because they're getting to know, like, and trust you in a more passive way than actually spending one-on-one time with you. All right, use a casual tone. So when you're sending messages to people, you want to talk to them like they would talk to a friend. Reason for that is that only when you're getting sales pitches do you get, hello, sir, or just, the formality of it all. You want to be professional, but I almost always start my engagement, like on a LinkedIn message. I put, hey, Bob, hey, Steve, hey, Jim, hey, Mike, hey, Tina, whatever. I use hey. That's because that's how I would talk if I was talking to a friend. If you speak differently and there's something you would use instead, use it. Use that casual tone. They put their guard down a little bit, and it feels more like a social network interaction as opposed to a sales pitch. Okay. Ask first. Ask for permission. And what I mean by this is that ask them if you want to share something with them, like let's say a guidebook or a case study or whatever. Say, hey, would you be interested in taking a look at this? So when they say yes, when you send it to them, they're typically more likely to respond and look at it and read. If you just say, hey, I see that you work in this industry, and I have a case study that talks about that, and here is the link. It's like, wait a second, I didn't ask you for that. But if you're friendly and engaged and you come back and say, hey, I see you work in X industry, I have a pretty cool case study that my company did, gained this and that for them. Would you like to check it out? Sure, send it over. Boom, here's the PDF, right? That works really well. And then send naked. And I mean by that, send the link. So if you have some gated piece of content, like I told you, when we're sending people to our website, they're going and they got to click, give their email address to download this Killer SaaS website guidebook. So if you have some type of asset, that works great for people that are finding you and actively going to your website, your LinkedIn profile, whatever. However, if you're engaging with someone and they're not necessarily asking for that, by asking if they'd like to see it and then sending them just the PDF, don't ask them to fill out a form. Ask them if they want to see it. When they do, just send them the PDF or whatever format it is. That way they don't feel like, whoa, I'm being duped, right? You already know they're interested by telling you yes. Make it easy for them. If you're using any type of paid LinkedIn, send audio messages. There's a little button in mobile that allows you to leave voice messages, which is just, there's a novelty to that. That's really cool. And then send video messages. I'm going to give you a link with the download that you're getting that'll allow you to send these type of what I use, all my follow-up, all my engagement. I always, after someone responds to me, I use automation to connect, but then when someone actually responds to me, I send a personalized video message. It's like 30 seconds long, and I don't have a pitch, nothing. I'm just saying, hey, thanks so much for connecting, whatever. It's just a very introductory. It's literally less than 30 seconds, but I 70% of the time get a response to that. And then social tangible, you guys sell promo items. Let's move them into your realm. So after you connect with people, say, hey, let me have a mailing address, and I have a little something for you. And don't tell them what it is, and actually send them something. Maybe a deck of cards, branded, your brand, or something pretty cool as a gift. Position it as a gift, send it to them. That can start the conversation and talk promo. So that's it for me today. Success formula. Remember, positioning plus consistency plus high converting offers. The offer for you today, again, guys, I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. If you're interested, reach out to me. We do a managed service. We're offering it for a handful of people. We're going to have one promo distributor in all the metro areas, and that's it. So one per region, so it is very limited. If you're interested in having this, what I talked about, done for you, that's the offer, and I can tell you more about it. And you don't have to spend the time in advertising dollars, whatever. But more importantly, the slides for this presentation and the advanced LinkedIn Boolean Search download, and then also learning more about our managed service. We'll get that over to you if you just, and here's also with these slides, revenue roadmap. The links to these things are right in this PDF that we'll send. And if you want to go to this link here, let me actually post it in the chat. Let me know if you're interested. And just go, all you're going to do is you're simply going to go to that link. It's just a contact form at linkforleads.com. And go and fill out the form there. It just says name, email, and how can we help. All I want to hear from you today is, hey, I'm interested in the free gifts. And if that's all you want, just say that. And you can mention the Masterclass, so I know you're talking about. It comes to me and Andy. And then if you are interested in learning about the managed service, so we do this for you, just say that and let me know. We'll get back to you. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. You have a great rest of your year, and let me know how I can help. Fill out the form, get your gifts, and again, thank you guys so much for joining. Take care, everybody.